Hi friends, it's Adrian, and today I wanted to come at you all with a very quick book haul. I have 7 books here to talk about, and so let's just get into it. Why do we always do that? See, let's just get into it instead of getting into it. I know, it's just, well, just get into it, and I'm making it even worse by ranting about it. First off, we have Out of My Mind by Sharon M. Draper. This is a sort of middle grade story about a girl named Melody who has cerebral palsy, and in this story, you are in the mind of Melody, and you get to realize that she's very brilliant, but nobody knows this because of the fact that she can't speak. So in the book, she struggles because a lot of people underestimate her intelligence. They would think that she doesn't know this or she doesn't understand this, when she's just there like, she knows what's going on. And it's very interesting. I read I read like a good chunk of it already. I DNF'd it for reasons that I'd rather not get into right now, but I was really enjoying what I read, and it's definitely a great story to put yourself in the perspective of someone like this. The next book I have to talk about is Light Falling on Bamboo by Lauren Scott. Isn't this cover gorgeous? You're like, I'm sorry, I just have to talk about this cover. It's so gorgeous. This is the Bamboo Cathedral in Trinidad, and funnily enough, I was there like almost 2 weeks ago, so it's kind of cool that, you know, anyways. This is basically a West Indian fiction, obviously. It's set in Trinidad, and it's set during, I believe, I think it's set still during colonial times, and basically it follows I believe, a family who were living in Paris and they moved back to Trinidad. Not quite sure. This book was on sale and I was like, yes, so I just bought it without really knowing much, but I definitely can't wait to get into it because I need to read some more West Indian fiction, especially set in my own country. The next book is How to Be Both by Ali Smith. I mentioned this in my top something books to read before the end of the year. Quite a few of these actually I mentioned in that video, and basically this is the story of, it's 2 stories actually. One of them is set in the 1960s in Italy, and it's basically about this, I believe it's a British woman, I'm not sure, and she's recalling a trip that she took with her mother to Italy before her mother passed away. And the second story is the story of a artist during the Renaissance in the 1460s, also Italy, and it's about how those 2 stories interconnect. The interesting thing about this book is that depending on the edition you buy, you can get either story first, and the edition that I have, the modern story, is first. So I'm quite interested to see how that plays out. I heard it's very experimental. I read like the first page and I realized that Ali Smith does not use quotation marks, which could be a recipe for the disaster, but I read a book like that before and it didn't pose too much of a problem, so hopefully that doesn't happen with this book, but it does get a bit frustrating when you don't use quotation marks. The next book I got was The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by John Boyne, a very well-loved, very well-known World War II historical fiction book about a boy named Bruno whose father is the son of a commandant. His father, Bruno's father, is a commandant and is in charge of a concentration camp. And Bruno doesn't really know much about the war and what's going on. He thinks his father is good. He thinks the people on the other side of the fence are having a blast of a time until he meets the boy in the striped pajamas. To be quite honest, I did not like this book. It wasn't a bad story, but it was not executed properly, and it just didn't really hit me in the way that a story should hit me. Although the ending had me in tears, the entire story just felt very bland and lacked a lot of luster. So that's an unpopular opinion, don't hate me for it. That's just how I feel. Quite a few people actually feel the same, really. And yeah, it's not my cup of tea. I will talk about it more in an upcoming wrap-up video. Next book I'm actually currently reading is In the Country by Mia Alvar. I mentioned this a million times. I am going to be reading this. I already started reading this actually for the, the Reader Theme Readathon, which I host with a couple of the people here on BookTube. And basically this is a collection of short stories about the Filipino diaspora. The first 2 stories were quite good. I'm on the 3rd one right now, and I'm really enjoying it. Basically she's giving voice to a bunch of Filipino people who live as immigrants around the world, and I love the first 2 stories, and hopefully I feel the same way about the rest. Next book, I showed this a couple times already, is Sofia Khan Is Not Obliged by Aisha Malik. This one is a romantic comedy sort of novel, and it's set in London, and it's about this Muslim woman whose name is, I believe, her name is Sofia. I had to guess her name even though it's on the cover. And basically Sofia is a writer for like a magazine or a newspaper or something, and she has to write a column about the Muslim dating scene. And yeah, that's all I know about this book. I just bought it because I'm really excited to read a book by a Muslim author about a Muslim character, because there are not nearly enough of those in the world. And the final book I have to talk about is Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and I have to say I don't really know much about this book other than it's about a 15-year-old girl. Her name is Kambili, and she lives with her brother and her father and her mother and you know, typical nuclear family, I guess. And they live a very good lifestyle, a privileged lifestyle, according to the back of this. I'm going purely by the back summary, y'all. It's a Nigerian book. It's set in Nigeria, and I believe it has a lot to do about family dynamic, and I heard that there's a lot of stuff in here about gender and politics, and I'm very excited to read this book. I love Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I mentioned this. I mention everything in all of my previous videos, well. I just continue saying the same things over and over again. But I love her. I watch all of her interviews and her TED Talks and stuff like that. She is so on fleek. Like, she's the definition of on fleek, and I have not read her books as yet. I need to start like reading her books, because I really love this woman, and I haven't read anything by her as yet, but I know that her writing is fantastic, and I've heard nothing but amazing things about all of her books, and I definitely, especially cannot wait for this one. So that's going to be it for this haul. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any thoughts on the books that I mentioned today, definitely leave them down below, and until next time, inshallah, keep reading.